What's up, everybody? My name is BMax78, aka Brand. This is episode 53 of the Anime Dojo. I'm alongside Chris and Steven. Chris, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, buddy. And you?
Doing well, can't complain. We have a couple things to get into tonight. Dion, like I said, Dion won't be joining us for the next couple, for at least a week or so. Not this week or next week, probably the week after. Um, he's out somewhere. So he was on last week. You'll hear that in the podcast because he's heading to a place for that. But it's just me and Chris going to be rolling it back. Tonight we're talking about the top 10 anime of that is big outside of Japan. We're going to talk about Solo Leveling, the game that's getting all these registrations to people to play, and we're talking about something weird with JJK, and it's kind of something I did not expect. JJK character nominee Hito, the government of a country built a beachside house for this man. We'll get into it. We'll start off though with the solo leveling game. So soloing games kind of been in production. There's a couple people playing it like in beta form right now and things. It is based off solo leveling directly, but uh, according to the people who make the game, there's over 12 million pre-registers for the game overall. Um, Chris, what do you think about? What do you think about that? 12 people, million people have registered to play this game, and yet we don't. We've only seen a little bit of gameplay through YouTube and other things.
Now, see, dude, as an older anime slash gamer, it's like I am beware of the hype that they're putting around this game because we have not had a lot of successful shows made into games and vice versa. So I am taking this with a grain of salt. However, depending on how the game is done, if it's done in a true RPG fashion or MMORPG, then I would be pleasantly surprised at this. But we have to wait and see.
Correct. We do know is we do play as the characters a little bit. I don't think you build your own character right away. That could come down the road. Based on the stuff I've seen gameplay wise, I didn't really. It seems like it's just played off. You play as Jinmu and kind of build up his story, and you can go through some of the other characters too, some of the other hunters as well. I'll be interested. 12 million downloads is nothing to scoff at for something that's had a lot of hype. Um, it's not crazy, but it's not surprising. It's different comparatively. Um, I'm interested in the game. I think it's going to be fun, but ultimately, I'm still like Chris in that sense. I'm waiting to see what's going to happen, see how it's going to play out. Because if this is pre-order stuff, so we haven't had a real full release date. We haven't had it's in alpha, you could say basically, not even close to beta testing yet, or early access for that matter. I wonder if this is going to be the first successful game we've had in a while. That's actually a video game, like a property tie-in. But we'll see if that actually works or not. Chris, I know you play a lot of like RPGs and stuff like that. You're going through Assassin's Creed right now, actually. Do you think if it was a where you could build your own character, or eventually they add a thing where you could build your own character and you can just get the powers, was that more viable than playing through just the characters from the show, or is it kind of you need a mix of both?
Now, see, I feel like if I were the makers of this game, I would make it where you can make your own character and he gets his own powers, has to go through his own story. It's a completely different story from what we know from solo leveling. But you can make like Jinnu like your final boss, or you can make him like somebody you have to eventually heat up with.
Okay.
Like there are a lot of ways you can do this. Like because see, I feel like if you are sticking to the story, it's not that it's bad, but you're limiting the type of game that you have.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. It's also going to be interesting to see down the road what they're going to do with certain aspects, because I think as we're getting more of the story from the more of the show coming out, I don't know if they're going to add another aspects or add things from the show or from the manga or manhwa or light novel or even the webtoon that we haven't seen yet. So I'm wondering if they're gonna add spoiler things too, which is kind of weird because you don't really want to get in the spoiler territory with certain things like that if you haven't kept up with the anime, or read the books. Like, I don't know if that's kind of some people think what people if that's a thinking people will have, or it's just the thing I'm playing a cool game, playing something fun. I don't care about the spoilers. We'll see. That's also kind of thing I thought about with all the Red Dead downloads. People haven't. I think a lot of people haven't watched the show, or if you have, it's very small amount. But also, people see a cool like power system and just kind of the way the game's gonna be shown off. That's what drew them in, which makes sense. That should be the case. I agree, I think. Um,
I mean, that is a better way to do it. I think so too. But it's just now when it comes out, is it actually going to be like everything else, or is it actually going to be what we set it out to be? When I say everything else, I mean, are we going to get another disappointment of another show that makes a bad game? That's, you know what I mean? Like, but the show itself gives such a good premise to make a good game.
yes, it does.
So it's like, why? This is why I keep saying I feel like they really need to have like an RPG type of deal. That's me.
Okay. Let me know what y'all think in the comments. It was kind of interesting that the Otaku News put this out. Otaku News Insider put this out, showing the fact that the game is getting some traction. If this works out, we could see other versions of games. I could eventually see. We're watching the show. We're watching episode 2 tonight of this Kaiju No.8. Eventually get a game premise based on what the show's about. That's not out of the realm of impossibility. I'm actually shocked. As much as we get a lot of stuff about Reicarnated Slime, Jobless, those haven't made adapted to the game because they're more story based, and I think those would be more fun. But ultimately, I see you do action stuff first. It makes more sense. But I'm thinking Jobless would have had a chance to become a game eventually down the road. You know, because that's just going to be it. That could just an interesting story you could tell across the board. But let's get into this other. Yeah. So also from Otaku News Insider, by the way, they do this person does a very good job finding these news stories, finding everything about it. He has a website now. If you want to go check it out, same name. The website has all the stories he finds, all that kind of stuff. The most popular anime outside of Japan has been revealed. So this list is actually really interesting. So if you look at the list, Dragon Ball is one. Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z, Pokemon, Naruto, One Piece, Sailor Moon, Demon Slayer, Sword Art Online, Attack on Titan, Cowboy Bebop, and JJK. Chris, what do you think about this list? Because this list actually has a lot of older stuff considered Sword Art Online, Pokemon, and Dragon Ball. We have some new things there: JJK, Demon Slayer, and even to a point, you have Attack on Titan, which had pretty much finished now, but it's on the newer side.
Dude, this shows me that America has their priorities right when it comes to anime. Like,
yes.
I know that might just be me, but dude, it's like, first of all, y'all have okay, I agree with this list wholeheartedly because Dragon Ball Z is indeed the GOAT. Like, it's the one that everybody in America knows. It's the one that even most mafias bow down to. So it's like, dude. Okay, and then see, I was trying to find a list, but I can't find it. But it's like every other list thing that they had on that list is like one I've seen almost. I think there was only one that I didn't see on that list that I never watched. But everything else on there I had seen and watched.
I'm gonna assume the one you've never seen would be either Sailor Moon, Cowboy Bebop, or Sword Art Online. But I'm
Well, I've seen all three of those.
okay.
Yeah. Like I said, if I had the list, I could tell you, but for some reason I can't find it.
So Pokemon, Naruto, One Piece, Sailor Moon, Demon Slayer, Sword Art Online, Attack on Titan, Cowboy Bebop, and JJK.
Yeah, and then that's another thing is that list, the way you said it, they went from the GOATs to a few of the new ones, and then it's like it's a heavy mix. Like even Pokemon has its way. Like I think it's more so. Pokemon is more so respected for the longevity of the games, more or less the anime that. See, that's the only
Correct.
thing that you can say. Only game that's ever been made into a spinoff and they've been able to keep it going for as long as Pokemon has.
And Pokemon is interesting because I think that's it's kind of that realm of like you probably never played a Mario game, but you know who Mario is. You probably never
Hmm.
played a Pokemon game or seen the show, but you know who Pikachu is. That's why and I
Exactly.
wholeheartedly, that's why that's up there. That's the only reason that's probably up there outside of the fact someone kind of most of the Pokemon anime. Like Jesse and James is probably one of the biggest characters in that series. Misty was one of the biggest characters in that series. Brock's really, one of the biggest characters in that series. But the Pokemon itself, Pikachu, you have Squirtle, you have Bulbasaur, you see all these things, and I think it's interesting. I'm surprised. The other one I'm surprised with is Sailor Moon. Sailor Moon, I didn't expect to be up there, but I understand why because Sailor Moon's also been out in America a lot long, been out in America so long, and it's been a cartoon in America so long that people did watch it a lot.
Okay, but the thing, it's probably you being a newer anime watcher, and to a lot of our new people, newer anime viewers altogether.
Mm-hmm.
Sailor Moon is not only older, but and it's probably is one of the original magical girl ones, but it's actually really good.
Oh, it's really
Like
well
with
done.
actual fight scenes, depth stories. Like a matter of fact, that some time ago there was even like people don't realize that the original anime when it came out in Japan, they was actually the first to debut a lesbian couple. Later on, when it was Americanized, they said that they were cousins. I was
Oh,
like,
and
wow.
that's between the two. Is that Jupiter and who was the two? Because I remember the two characters you're talking about. Is it Jupiter or like Saturn or one of the? It's basically like the two girls on the team cared about each other, and then like you say, they changed that whole plot line to make it more cousins. But also, I think in the Japanese release originally, I think Tuxedo Mask and Sailor Moon actually had a more relationship, but in the American release, it's also kind of weird because they make it more like ships passing in the night kind of thing. They do have a relationship, but they don't know each other very well. They kind of until like halfway through the anime.
Well, it was no. I mean, in the original anime, they showed that they were in a relationship because they were always together. They were even showed, hey, even had a few kissing scenes.
Yes, they did.
Well, later on, when in America, and a few years later, when it came out in America, they edited those things out.
Correct.
And then when they did the dub, of course, they're going to change the dub a little bit to match it. But later on, when it was re-released in America, they kept all the originals, all the original content.
Okay. It's weird because Pokemon has done it too. They took it out episodes themselves that they think they have deemed they usually have deemed that they weren't great for American fans, but also in the end, some of those episodes were lost to time completely, which was even more crazy. Um, I don't know. This is actually really interesting. That tells me that American fans actually do watch a lot of diverse things comparatively to what nowadays, but that just kind of shows that is a lot of new and old school stuff. Because I didn't think JJK probably would not have been up there at all for most people if they don't know what if you don't know who Gojo is or any of that stuff.
But the thing
Like,
is, will JJK stand the test of time? Because we know that the
mm,
series itself is not too far from an end, which means that Demon Slayer and uh, both Demon Slayer has had longer runs than JJK.
yes, they have. Even
So so with
Attack
that
on
being said,
Titan is that
yeah,
longer run. That's a longer run.
exactly. Now, granted, Attack on Titan some of these are only long because they survived the COVID. You
Yes.
know, so
Yeah.
that is one thing to keep in mind too.
I I
So
ultimately
so but
I ultimately believe. Yeah, I'm sorry to cut you off. I believe you brought up a good point. Surviving COVID. You think about it. Attack on Titan survived it. Demon Slayer survived it for the most part. If Sailor Moon came out today, could it survive it? Probably not. If Dragon Ball's still going, One Piece is surviving it because it's One Piece. That's just One Piece in general. I don't know. It's gonna be interesting to see if this list, like, I would love to see a list like this maybe 10 years down the road, and see how that list would change. Are you still
Well,
putting the
if you really want
Pokemon
to,
all that down the road?
I was gonna say, if you really want to change, just simply look at somebody else's top anime of all times outside of it. Just like everybody has their own opinions.
Yes, I
Like
do.
a matter of fact, if I search Google's and see what Google says as America's top 10, they definitely start different. It's a whole different. You do see a lot of the same, but for the most part, they're all in different spots.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And it's an interesting thing to think about. The thing is now a lot of people are like, oh, I just want to see action in anime. I just want to see this. But now looking on that list, you have a mix of action, storytelling, some drama. I mean, not much. But ultimately, it's not the only thing you don't have in there is reincarnation or Igasei, basically. And outside of that, that's a pretty diverse list. Like I could give that list and find somebody like, oh, yeah, I've seen this, I've heard of this, I knew of this. Like, so that list, the list we're seeing from Kaiju News has a lot more like heavy hitters, but the heavy hitters least people would know. And I think that's going to be kind of the interesting.
That's true.
Interesting about it is like, oh, okay, you did some things people know, and it's also different because Japan. I think Pokemon is big in Japan, but it's not as big as what is here in America. And only I think with crossovers, Pokemon and One Piece probably crossover ones. Attack on Titan, maybe. A lot of stuff in Japan probably more drama based, so people like drama stuff better, more of these guys stuff, Ikase stuff. Unlike us, we like the action, so it's like okay, the action is more prevalent for us. But hey, I'm not gonna complain about that. Like, it's more fun to think about what they've done with this show ultimately, with these shows in the in the time period, and it's you're going through a couple decades too. You can see like there's multiple decades of things over the time period as well. So let's get into.
But that's why I say that it's got a chance to the test of time. So
Yes.
a lot of these, yeah.
But would you have thought that these would have held the test of time if this list came out a year later or a year previous, vice versa? Like if this list came out last year without
A good handful of these would definitely make it because action never dies. To me, good action is always good action. Now a good book, a good story can also last a test of time, but it can also become overused and overplayed depending on how many people have used it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let me know what y'all think in the comments about this because it's kind of interesting. Chris Dion sent it to me. Chris saw it on Instagram. And it's an interesting topic. Like somebody did this for outside the U.S. and it's like, oh, okay, this list is actually pretty strong. But ultimately, I think that's the thing we're getting nowadays is the fact that that's the thing we kind of talked about the last couple weeks. Is like people like what they like. You can't throw people new things and hope it's gonna hit. Like, yeah, Pokemon took a couple years to get going, but it's still one of the best things around. The first season of Pokemon, even the second season for the most part, and it's finally finished up as of this last year. Like One Piece is still going. Attack on Titan just finished. Like you have stuff that people have enjoyed watching and understand what's going on. You can't throw like a Wagdonald out there. I don't think you can throw a Rick and Morty unless the fan base really wants it. That's the other problem with this. And I don't think you can see what they said. The fan base like those shows because they had a good story, stood the test of time. We'll see if that goes on for the next 5-10 years. But let's get into this last story. This last story is very interesting. So Malaysian government built a beach house for nominee Quito. So JDK's nominee Quito Dream Beach House, the Malaysian government actually built the broadcast on the 21st World Anime Song Elections. Nominee house is trending due to fans voicing the house is located near blue seas of Kanto, which is what nominee dreamed in the story, and fans all over the world are making plagiarized images. Chris, what do you think about this? A government building a house for an anime character based on an episode of the anime. We've seen another episode talking about because he's hallucinating on the beach and he wants to be on the beach just seeing the water, all that kind of stuff. What do you think about this? Because it's kind of weird.
Okay, if I'm just being honest, I want a house. I want a house on the beach. What I gotta do? And then the fact that an entire government, is taking the anime that serious, that just shows you the state of their economy in that country, dude. Because if y'all can put government money into a beach house for a fictional character, that says that y'all just got money to blow.
Yeah, and
And
this. Go ahead.
I mean, bro, it's ridiculous, but it's so awesome at the same time. Like, I admit it, like in the scene, dude, like for real, bro. Like Nanami died in the most badass heroic way. Any, bro, he goes at one of the great deaths of the anime. Like
Oh
on
yeah.
the cool, I will
Oh
give
yeah.
it all that he deserves. But to make a real house for a fictional character, man, I better be able to Airbnb that thing, and I'll leave it at that.
I mean, yeah, I agree with that. Um, I, I can't disagree. Like, I agree with what I think Chris saying, but it also feels weird because, like you're giving, it's like giving a statue to like, uh, uh Superman in real life for some reason. Like, that would be the American equivalent. Like, I don't really want to see that, but also, like, yeah, like, huh? It feels like he Chris said, just people spend the money because they can. But at the same point, I don't think anybody would really like. I can't bet eyelash at it unless you're just doing it out of like just because you cared about the character and you thought this is a cool way to honor the character. Cool. But there's other ways to honor the character. I think this was the same thing we heard about. Somebody built a statue for Nominee somewhere in the world too. There's like a statue of him somewhere in the world. I remember we talked about that a couple months, about a month ago. It feels like they were just doing it out of respect, but it also feels like, wait, why are you wasting all that money and time just to build a house? I,
Yeah,
it has the thing of like, yeah, this feels weird, but okay. But
you
people
know,
would do weird things.
I
People
may
do
be
weird
eating
things.
my own words. I may be eating my own words, but I feel like there was probably a house there that maybe they just renovated, or somebody had already did all the work and they just bought it as is. There's multiple ways to
Probably,
skin a cat.
probably. But they did say built in the article in the little Instagram thing, so I'm wondering if it's actually built from scratch too. Because you wouldn't say build without if you would have said like you said if you said, oh, we found a house, we're just gonna refurbish it and make it where it feels like for nominee. That makes more sense. But they said build specifically. It's kind of like, huh, okay. So you actually legitimately built a beach house. Like, all right. Would do you think that's going overboard, Chris, or do you think that's just kind of the norm now for anime things?
I mean, Okay. Let me put it to you this way: Dragon Ball Z caused the entire Mexican cartels to have a standoff. So what does that tell you?
You serious?
Yeah. When when
Okay.
when when Toriyama passed away, there was an entire ceasefire within the Mexican cartel.
That's crazy. That's insane. Okay.
So you tell me, like, so these anime characters are really do have a fan base, bro. Now, I haven't seen it amongst women. That doesn't mean that there isn't, but I feel like the ones that surround the dudes are because men are being men in the most manly of ways.
I
Like
think
none of that creepy crap.
yeah, but I also think the other side of that coin is something we've talked about, which I've also kind of like not gonna chuck anybody's yum or anything. The husbando and waifu thing, I've never really got that whole thing, but that's where Gojo falls under. If you really thought about it, for a lot of women, because Gojo's that blue-eyed, like he looks like somebody who would want to go. Same with Hamane in the same series, like it has that following behind the character. They like the character so much that they really like him as a husband kind of thing. But it's like at the same point, we've also saw the bad side of that, where we talked about the voice actor about GTA when he did the role playing server on GTA, and people were getting on that because it was like, why are you talking like this? It was a role player server for GTA, and he was just having fun by with friends. So there's both sides of those coins. I'm like, you kind of can go too far.
Exactly.
But ultimately, do I think it's harmless? Yeah, for the government to do this, I think it's harmless. This is a way to get people to come to the country. Yeah, if they want to actually see it, cool, fine. Do I think we're going to see more of this pop up down the road? Oh, absolutely. Just kind of how way.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I know it's some throw Airbnbs out there in the world. So I mean, it is what it is, man. So
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Not gonna like. I could ultimately say neither here nor there. I'll be like, I'm fine. Do what you need to do. But I I
exactly,
will I will say this. I think ultimately too, I think you can appreciate a character, but you don't have to always go overboard for a character. You can appreciate a character. You can do cool things that you make art for it. People have made fan art. People have done um, drawings, paintings. They've done other things. I think it's really cool. But kind of to that sense, can you go overboard and do other things that don't really make sense and doesn't have a sensible reason outside of just doing something cool to show off that fandom. But let's get into these charts, which are based on Phantom. Um, so these are the charts for the spring season, week 2, April 12th to April 19th. So God's Blessed of the Wonderful World is at 1, Dead or Alive at 2, Unnamed Memories at 3, went up 6 spots. Windbreaker went up 4 spots for 2 4. Mission Yokohama Family is at 5, dropped 2 spots. The time I got reincarnated is a Slime season 3, dropped 1 spot. Spice and Wolf dropped a spot to 7. Jobless dropped 4 spots to 8. And How to Love Your Elf Bride went up 6 spots to 9. And then Delicious Dungeon dropped 3 spots to 10. Chris, what do you think about this chart? We kind of talked about it in text. You thought this chart was a lot better. Why do you think that?
bro. I told you this chart was gonna flip. I told you this chart was gonna flip.
Yeah.
Yeah, bro. So Konosuba, I am rewatching the movie now, and I can see why it's in the top spot. It is still goofy. It's still funny. It's still good. Data Live 5, I'm also catching up on the movies before I get into the new season, but it is also just as good as I remember. And FYI, both of those shows do have a fair amount of fan service in it. Now,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not watching Unnamed Memory, so I'm not sure about that one at all, but it can't be that bad, especially for it to jump up 6 spots.
Mm-hmm.
Windbreaker definitely deserves where it's supposed to be. Mission Yokozara Family. Now, the fact that we're looking at episode 2 instead of episode 3, I can see where that's at. I think it might actually fall on episode 3, but it does not mean it's not a good show. It is good. Reincarnated Slime, I can see that definitely slowly rising as they turn up the heat on that one. Because that one's going to be, that one's going to turn up the heat and be good. Spice and Wolf is a good repeat. I mean, honestly, I wouldn't have it on this list because you can go and watch the original and it's just about the same story. So Jobless. Jobless is good for what it's doing, but I need to get back to the conflict that they had in season 1. So that might continue to fall. That might continue to fall if they don't pick it up. The Arch Demon's Dilemma is actually surprisingly good. Like, I am watching that one, and I can see why it jumps up 6 spots. Like, it starts as a nice, cute, cuddly thing, and then it, like, totally flips. Like, oh. Delicious in Dungeon, bro, is freaking awesome. Like, I don't care where it is on the top 10 list. I'm just glad that it's on there.
But, it's funny. You mentioned Konosuba, you mentioned Data Live, both having fan service stuff. I like you haven't heard Unnamed Memories, haven't heard much about. Windbreaker's interesting because I think Windbreaker's in that weird spot of like it's what we've talked about this before. It's what Bujigiri wanted to be, and now they're doing a Bujigiri style story, and it's actually fun. So people are enjoying the way they're doing it. I'm gonna be interested in Mission Yokohama Family because I think the last episode wasn't bad. It wasn't terrible. It's a story building show, and story is slowly building. I I kind of feel like it's one of those ones where you have to keep up with it, or you're going to be kind of thoroughly confused with what's going on. I also feel like slime. People are getting bored because we haven't had no action in slime yet. Technically, no true action. And that's only because I think we're getting into the fact of why the plot's there. Like you said, people getting back to the plot, trying to figure out where we're ramping up to, what's that ramping up to be, ultimately. I do agree Spice and Wolf probably should be on there as a remake, but it's a remake of the original, so you can technically kind of get away with it. Jobless is the same spot as like Slime, but I think Jobless does a better job of story. So I don't know why people are kind of annoyed that there's not all the action because we're not gonna get a lot of action right away. This last episode we just watched didn't have a lot. I mean, had a little bit of action, but not really action at all. And when I say action, it's more like conflict. Now we're gonna get to the deep story. I haven't seen, like you say, Digital Dungeons are good. That should always be up there. The Elf thing, I might start watching that because that jumps 6 spots. That tells me something good about it. The interesting about this list, and now I'm getting to 11:15. Hey, listen to this, Chris. Kaiju number 11, Another World with level 2 super cheat power at 12. Go Go Loser Ranger at 13. Condition Called Love at 14. And Moonlight Fantasy at 15. And I'll get to 20 basically. Grandpa and Grandpa Turn Youngins at 16. Seven Princess at 17. Black Butler at 18. Jellyfish Can't Swim at 19. Remonster at 20. So think about that. Think about the fact that Kaiju's at 11. And we've only been to 2 episodes for it. And it wasn't even on.
Granted, though, at least with that being said, like almost every other show on here has a fan base.
Correct.
Konosuba definitely has a fan base. Data Live has a good fan base. Let's see. Reincarnated as a Slime has a fan base.
Yep.
Spice and Wolf, Jobless, and Delicious and Dungeon. Those all have fan bases now. So if you were to remove those, so that is we're taking out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different shows. So everything that's below 6, I would raise it up 6 levels.
Oh, so you're saying Kaiju goes
that
up.
would be that.
Oh wow, so you're saying Kaiju goes up. You're saying level 2 super cheat power goes up. Go Ranger, that you call Love. Oh wow, so so basically everything from 17 up will go up a spot.
Exactly. So because if you take out all the new shows,
Yeah.
and if you take out all those shows and leave the new shows, then Windbreaker would technically be Unnamed Memory would technically be number 1, followed by Windbreaker, Mission Yozaka Family, and the Archdemon. Those will take your top 3 spots.
Okay.
And the 7 that you mentioned after that would be in the top 10.
Okay. All right. That makes sense. It's funny too. I'm wondering. I wonder why Remonster's so low on this list. But I'm also wondering if that's because the last episode was always kind of the back half of the episode was kind of freaky. A lot of people like that idea. But then also like you have your regular high school at 22. God's Game We Play is at 26. Train to the End of the World is at 27. Bartender, which is a remake, Glass of the Gods at 30. Um, yeah, I mean, Fable's at 44, which I think that's just a crime. Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be interesting to see where this all ends up because I agree with the list so far. It's gonna change. Once Kaiju kicks in, I think Kaiju's gonna jump in the top 10. That's the one I have. So I'm not surprised if that happens. Um, but Kaiju's the only one I think will have a bigger fan base than the other ones. But I think once they did it again this week, but they did the little premiere thing again, so we'll see how that really pans out for them overall. If I had to say it right now, your top 3 is going to be kind of in that Konosuba, Dare Alive, Undead Memories. I think that's not going to change very often, but 4 through 10 will change as much as possible. You kind of agree with that, Chris?
Oh, most definitely. Most definitely.
Like 4 through 10 is going to be your changings, and then 1, 2, and 3 are kind of stay the same. Because, like you say, Konosuba has a big fan base. They're Alive has a big, pretty fan base. Because this is season 5, technically, of that. Unnamed Memory. Huh?
I was gonna say now I'm gonna read out the other chart that I sent you because
Okay.
it is completely flipped. Ready?
Yep.
So the top 10 on theirs is Jobless being number 1, Delicious and Dungeons is number 2, Spice and Wolf is number 3, Kaiju number 8 is number 4, Konosuba is number 5, Slime is 6, Jellyfish is 7, Go Loser Ranger is 8, Whisper Me a Love Song is 9, and Train to the End of the World is 10. See, that is a completely different list. And
So
yes, these are all these are the same dates as the other list.
And it's also kind of interesting. You look at that list. Jellyfish that came from the Knights up there. We also have Jobless at 1, which tells people who actually are liking Jobless. So that's kind of weird. And then you have a couple of different things too, like you have like Delicious Dungeons up there. You have like the Yokohama family's not on the top 10, but it's in the top 15 if I remember correctly. It's weird because that's based off watch time. And it's also kind of funny too. That's also Reddit, which I agree. Usually Reddit's more in tune with what's really going on within like the conversation sometimes, for the most part, all the time. But I think it's also interesting because Reddit will do more of that deep dive stuff, more interesting understanding of why people like these shows, who actually watches what. like I said before, I'll say again, they need to make a combining list of these two easily. But I think there's nothing. I will say this right now. I said this at the beginning of the season. I thought Kaiju probably the most overhyped. There's nothing overhyped in the season, technically. I don't think there's nothing overhyped, and I don't think there's nothing underhyped. In the sense that I think everything has equal footing for the most part. Outside of Kaiju getting a lot of marketing, everything has equal footing, and everything's out there for people to watch. Now, some things may get marketing like others. I think Hulu can do a bunch better with their marketing because their marketing is kind of bad for their shows. Terrible. Like Gogolu, Ranger, Fable, and Yokohama Family should get marketed a lot better. You know, Yokohama Family is getting marketed great compared to the Crunchyroll list. So I don't know.
Exactly.
But the other two aren't, which that kind of tells you why. But like, it's also like Spice Flips up there on Crunchyroll side because it's Crunchyroll. It's on Crunchyroll. Same with Tent Jobless. We'll see how the chart goes. I'm looking forward to like week 3 or 4. By the time we get to week 5, this will be really interesting to see how everything pans out. And once we get to 5, where does this list solidify, and where do things fall at that point? Because that's going to be the big thing for that. But let's get into our first anime we're going to watch tonight. We're going to start off with Kaiju No.8. This is episode 2 of Kaiju No.8. I will say this right now. I have to give Kaiju some credit. They did a very good job with this episode 2. But I will bring up something that Deanna has brought up in the past. And this is probably one of the few times you'll hear me agree with this sentiment. But I think it works here. We'll get into the episode. We'll watch it. We'll talk about it afterwards. So go ahead and get up episode 2 of Kaiju No.8. And we'll get into that in a second. But I also will say, I think the thing with Kaiju, even though it's got the hype it has, the countdown timers, all that kind of stuff, this is where that story picks up finally. This is where the story kind of gets interesting. I think that's the thing that people get kind of annoyed by because there's nothing to base that on until this episode comes out. Also, this has one of the better openings I think in the anime season so far. Very cool opening.
We'll most definitely.
But in a second, I will say 3, 2, 1, and then we'll get going. Chris, you ready?
Ready.
All right. And 3, 2, 1, let's go. The Kaiju who defeated a Kaiju. And it picks up where we left off, basically, right there, where we left off a little before.
You ain't got no fly swatter?
I would have punched it. I would have like took my fist, tried to punch it.
I would have tried to swat it.
Or not have your mouth open. That was the other thing.
What if it broke your teeth? The most dynamic intro I've seen.
And the most trippy opening as well. And think about this opening, Chris. Do you notice something? We don't see anything about characters. We don't see anything about like teasing things. This is just a not random like screens, but that's what they're doing here.
Man, I don't know, but I know they got an American band to help with this.
Yes, I heard about this.
Was it One Direction or?
It's Youngblood.
I know it was a well-known.
It's like Youngblood or like they're a popular band. I don't know how you could live. I don't know. I think I asked the question from the first episode. Could you live in a city? You said no. I don't know. I don't know how you could live in a city
Nope.
when a kaiju almost attacks every week, every day. You'd be just stuck in your house every day.
Man, say that. That's what I'm saying, bro. You couldn't own anything because everything will still be in the process of being paid off. And then, insurance is not going to be wanting to do any kind of insurance.
Yeah, you made a man faint. I love the fact too. Did you notice that when his voice talking the kaiju form, it has a little bit of reverb on it?
Yes.
So they make it sound like a monster, but it's not really a monster. It's just like his voice is slightly changed.
It's like they're giving him the same voice so you know it's him, but giving it that added fit so you know it's different.
Correct. By the by the way, how is the defense force so slow? The thing I thought about.
Wait, say that again?
How is the defense force so slow? They said they had to go to the hospital. They knew the kaiju wasn't going to stay there, so how are they tracking it now?
Man, good question. We might get an answer later on.
This is the most funny scene in this episode. Still the whole funny thing out of this episode.
At one of the most random places, bro.
But it's funny. They didn't put the. It's funny they didn't put the nipples there, which was supposed to. But I'm guessing they would be there naturally, so they would have just came out naturally like that. But it's not. It don't show on the kaiju.
I mean, but it's the fact that they urine come out of another place besides the most common.
Yes. Yeah. Another guy.
Dum dum dum.
Yep. And here's the other part about this. Like, if you have just one pop up like that in the middle of the night, like in the evening, how you sleep when you hear a kaiju go off? Come, like, nope. I would have the radio on all night at that point.
I mean, what else you gonna do?
True. True. I love how you thought about the way you thought about the scene, Chris. This is very. I love the way
Yeah.
you describe this scene. I'll let you do that. We need to talk about it.
This is a nice handshake to one of the best animes that's come out within the last 10 years. See,
Yep.
that is almost the same scene, and then they
It's
turn
a.
around with this.
That punch leveled about half the city.
Yes.
You tried the smile. You tried the smile thing again.
Bro,
Didn't work. did not work.
bro, that face is utterly priceless.
It is bright. It's very good. I love the music they use here. Looks some
Bro, that scene right there is everything. That face he made,
the
yes.
face, the coloration. Oh my, that's beautiful.
Man, see, the animators did a really good job on this.
I love the bug eye look that he gets. He's like, "What did I just do?" Yeah,
What they
no,
do to a person.
that that person would just be liquefied. You know what I love the fact about his kaiju form? His jaw
But
would naturally when you're a human, your jaw naturally moves multiple times when you're talking. His jaw only opens once. He says what he says and closes back up, but doesn't move as much. It's a single motion.
which now you're right, but that is one anatomical thing that they do that kind of like it irks me a little bit because it's anatomically stupid.
Okay. Well, yeah.
So it's the moment where his kaiju form it looks like it just becomes a shell of his body.
Uh-huh.
See that part. This is one of the parts that don't make sense. And the reason why is because later on you see him transform in and out of having that mouth.
Yeah, the mouth transformation to the weird one, but he can't control it either. That's what he said. That's what he does get at quickly. They also did a little detail here that I thought was interesting because you don't see this much in anime, and I don't think they do it well, but they did it here well. She got to her, our other main character got to her level, not standing up.
Mm-hmm.
You don't really see that much in anime because they'll just keep that difference. Here they're showing you she's trying to help her figure out what happened, ask her what happened, rubbing her head, saying everything's gonna be fine. We just want to know.
That's yep. Mm-hmm.
By the way, what could he have said? His eyes are closed, or look closed naturally.
Right. And
You
see,
know
that
what?
would normally be legal looking at somebody else's mail.
Would it be illegal? Oh yeah, it would. Technically, that's a federal. That's a
Yeah.
federal. Yeah, that's right. That's right. But it's funny. In this case, they're saying he's doing it to prove that that he got it, and that facial expression by him shows the rest of them that he did make it, which is actually kind of funny. So we don't get that reaction naturally if they didn't do that.
See? Here we go with the other part.
Yeah. How did he? Yep.
See, that should not be possible if his body comes off like a shell.
Yeah. Yeah. No.
See, I'm hoping they explain that. I'm hoping they explain that.
I mean, the explanation he gives, he's like, it just comes out randomly. But if he rubs his face and the teeth are still there, there's something wrong because it would all came off.
Mm-hmm. So they've got some explaining to do on that part.
Yeah. You get shot immediately, and that's also weird. How do you make the
Man,
teeth
what?
right? How are you making the teeth just random like that? Yeah. Wait, has it been 3 months? Is it been 3 months since he got his kaiju form?
No, it's been like a few days.
Oh,
See, it looks like his emotions are his triggers.
okay. Why does he call him sir?
Respect.
That's what I thought, because I know Japan has the big respect thing, but it's also kind of interesting because like he's not that much older than that kid.
I mean, but this scene says something totally different, though.
Mm-hmm.
Bro, I swear I would act the same way if a younger person saying, "Move, old man." I would completely not hear them and ignore them, thinking they were talking to somebody else. This is what lets me know this show is gonna be a throw, like, cause I feel like that wasn't supposed to happen, but it did.
What wasn't supposed to happen?
The one was probably one of the smallest characters. Literally lifts up a truck and tosses it with one hand.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's probably it.
Oh yeah, bro. This is gonna be a good show once it kicks up. I can see it.
I have to give them credit, and I think this is the credit I'll give them. When you have all the elements working well together, it works out. And here at the back half of the episode, everything works out. We'll go through this one by first half, middle half, and back half. And then I'll get to my point that I'll bring up at the end because it's very valid to this. But this show does a very good job of character building, and I think that's the big thing it has done well. So this show kicks off where we left off last time. Partly left off, not fully left off. We left off at him turning into a kaiju, and they're trying to figure out a way to get to the hospital after the old man sees them. Well, they do. They first break a window or break the wall, but ultimately, the Ichikawa says, "Give him a smile." He tries to smile. He smiles, but his tongue comes sticking out, like going back and forth like a snake. And he's like, "That probably didn't help." And the guy faints. They try to go check on the guy. He tries to check on the guy, but the guy is not waking up. He breaks the wall, and then he's like, "We can go out the window." Breaks the window, breaks half the room entirely. After that, ultimately, they figure out, okay, we just need to get going. We get going. They jump out the window. and start running. He kind of starts when he starts running at this point. We see him kind of transform into this like weird abomination of things where you can't control it really. Like he's kind of like, that's disgusting. He's talking about he ate the bird. Then we get to this weird scene, which is kind of supposed to be funny. He's like, I have to go. I need to go take a leak. And he's like, and he's kind of like, hold it, sir. Well, I really can't. He's kind of like, I don't really see a place where that's naturally supposed to happen. Then they change the shot, and the shot feels like it's purple white coloring, and he goes from his chest, which is kind of like, okay, doesn't really make sense, but it works. Then he's like, I might just not meant to be in the defense force because if I do this, it's not going to work out the way it does. Then they kind of keep talking. They figure out he's going to keep trying to figure a way to do things. Our main character Kurosawa hears some noises. He kind of listens out. Once he listens out, he's like, "Oh, something's coming. Are they coming?" And each guy's like, "Are they coming? No, it's something else." And you kind of see a silhouette of a kaiju underground. And the kaiju comes up the ground and it blows up part of the city. And then that's when they're like, "We need to keep running." So they run away. But as they're running away, the next thing we see is a little girl and her kind of crying. We don't know why. So I'll stop right there before we get into that part. Chris, what do you think about this first 8:19 of this episode?
So, like I said, was trying to say earlier, man, I feel like if I ever saw something that big floating that close to my face, my immediate reaction would be to try to swat it as hard as I can. That's the first thing, bro. Now, everything, but I mean, I don't know what kid over here, I don't know what grown man would pass up a chance to get superpowers in any form or fashion, though. So
that's also true.
Yeah. So, but then when he's like discovering his strength, bro, like that means like, so what he thinks is his normal strength is not his normal strength, and he ends up just massacring this hospital. Like, oh. And then as they're running down the street, he's over here like, I don't know if he really has control over what he transforms into or something like that. That looks kind of weird. But it's like as soon as he ate a bird, he comes back to normal. It's like, oh, okay. I don't even know if that has anything to do with like any kind of foreshadowing, or is that just something that y'all just threw in? But I don't know. Maybe y'all will show more of that later. Mm-hmm. And then the dude urinates out of his nipples. Like, bruh.
Like, that's the most funny thing ever. And they do the thing where each account even says, I checked the normal place that would happen. I don't see anything there. So where's it going to happen? And they cut and they say, here's what's going to happen. I'll miss a beat.
I mean, and then he's let's see, I'm looking for the name of it, but there was another live action movie that came out when we were kids. I think it was Stargate or Star Star, something like that.
Something like that.
Where the kid is trying to use the restroom. He's in this spacesuit, but he can't get out the spacesuit because for some reason he doesn't have a password. But it's like when he needs to go use the restroom, like it opens up a port in the neck.
I remember. Yeah, I know what you're about.
Yeah, I was like, bruh. He tells me, and I can feel his frustration, but I don't know what's weird. I don't know what was more weird, the nipples or the neck. Like, bruh.
Yeah. I have to give this first half credit. This kind of credit. This first half was pretty interesting, just learning more about him. We're about to get to the second half. This second half is really fun, or the second part of this. Well, we see the little girl. She's crying, and she's trying to get her mom under this rubble. Underneath this rubble, because she's trying to help her. She can't do much. But then you see this kaiju, this giant like spiral, be like kaiju come bursting out, looking through his eyes. Doesn't burst into him yet. and he's kind of staring. And then the the kaiju's about to eat the little girl, and the mom's saying, "Run, baby, run, leave, not stay around." And then our main character, Kurosawa, goes up to the kaiju, does this like I don't know what he like powers up with his fist, lighting it all, and just punches it with one fell swoop. The animation on this part was really interesting. They did a really good job with this. He punches it, the lightning goes throughout the body, and it bursts into pieces, and the blood spatters everywhere. But then you hear Ichikawa say, "Don't do that to a human, because that would be very bad." Yeah, the human would be pretty much done. Um, then the little girl's surprised. And he tried, and Ichikawa tells him to make the little girl smile. So he tried. Uh, Kurosawa tries to make the girl smile, but he does the same thing where he tongue is sticking out, trying to smile. It doesn't really work the way it's supposed to. They save the mother. The mother's fine. Kurosawa basically this is where he fully punches the thing to make it burst in blood. The first time he just punches it away to kind of get away from them so he can save them. That's where you hear each story kind of say, "Do not try that on humans." And he just kind of sits there for a second and thinks about what's going on. And the little girl's scared, and he thinks of back to what him and his friend that's in the defense force talked about, like never being alone, and I'll be by your side, all that stuff. Then he thinks about her in the defense force and fighting this like dragon thing, casting a vision. Then Ichikawa said, Kurosawa says, "I need to do this." This is where you see him kind of de-full his head, and he can focus on that he can come out in and out of the thing as well. She comes on the scene. She's like, "What just happened? We didn't even see." And then one of her men say, "What happened here? We didn't even see it." And then the little girl is talking. The little girl gets talked to by the guy. The guy says doesn't say much to her. The girl doesn't say much. I love this scene. The scene basically is her talking to the little girl at her level, asking about everything, and what happened. She looks back to kaiju. Then we see the kaiju on the TV, and then what we heard about them, and we see the guys at the job site talk about seeing the news report about the kaiju, and then Ichikawa walks into the building. Chris, what do you think about the second part? So about up to the 14-19 mark.
Bro, so okay, bro. Like, I can only say that they did like Attack on Titan because of the scene and the frame and how they did it, bro. That was bro. If that wasn't the nicest hug to Attack on Titan, I don't know what is, because if they continue with scenes like that, they might actually be better than Attack on Titan. Yeah.
By the way,
I know I might make a lot of fans mad by saying that, but oh well.
But by the way, speaking of Attack on Titan, but also isn't the lines almost one for Attack on Titan for the most part? Like you hear in the case the mothers in both shows tell the kid, "Leave, don't try to save me." But in the one hand, one's forced to leave. In this case, the girl doesn't leave. So like they do that same kind of one for one comparison of like, "Oh, you need to get out of here. Don't try to save me. Just run." Like I think that's kind of interesting how they did that.
But man, but that's the thing though. So when the scene was nice, but then when he goes and he punches the dude, and I mean, he punched. Now I don't know if our character is left or right-handed, but we know that wasn't his full power punch, because when he actually uses his full power, it looks like he's shooting lightning.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is the one thing that I want to really break down about this show, because it raises a lot of questions on what's possible in the world of kaiju. Because taking out Godzilla, him being the king of monsters that he is, and we focus on the storylines that Pacific Rim gave us.
Okay.
If you look at those lines, And because which is starting, which I think this anime may be going is like these things that they've learned to manipulate DNA, and that's all it is. So we could see him either his powers either growing where he's able to manifest different powers besides lightning, or maybe even take different forms. Or heck, I would be surprised to see if he has to have some kind of mental focus in order to keep his powers from in check from consuming him. Like this,
Okay.
it's just so early in the show though that this can go a lot of different ways.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, it they can do a lot of different things. Like he gets stronger over time. He has he learns more about what his abilities can do and can really manipulate things. So there's a lot they can do with this. Um, let's get, let's get to this back half. This back half's really good. So we see the guys who does all the cleanup in the office, looking at the news. Ichikawa walks in. Ichikawa talks about that everybody's seen him. There's eyewitnesses. They're going to try to find him. And the head of the job site cleanup guy says, "I have two. There's two official letters for you and Kurosawa." And he says, "Can you take it to Kurosawa from? He's already at the job site." And the guys are like, "Oh, the test. He takes it every year. He usually passes it, but if he doesn't, we have to kind of cheer him up." Icha Ichikawa looks at his. He passed, and he said, and the guy's like, "Do you want me to take Kurosawa? You don't take it." I like, and Ichikawa says, "I'll take it." And as he's walking out the door, he looks at Ichikawa or Kurosawa passed, and he kind of seems smiling and happy about that. And the rest of the guys like, "Oh, he must have passed, so that's good." Then we see him go to the job site where Kurosawa's at the job site, kind of starting his work, but everything, taking a little break. And Ichikawa's like, "Why do you look like that? Do you want to get yourself caught?" And this is where Chris kind of had a little bit of gripe, and we both had a little bit of gripe with this. He rubs his face, and then he sees the teeth are still there. Well, yeah, if you get caught, they'll just take one shot at you and you're dead. That's what Ichikawa says. And then they talk about how they got back to the hospital, and they said once they saw the kaiju, Ichikawa tells the hospital that they ran off. And they're like, "Okay, that makes sense." Then you see Kurosawa kind of fix his face for a second. He reads the letter. He saw that he passed. He said, and Ichikawa's like, "Oh, I thought you'd be more happy about that." "Well, yeah, but I usually fail at the second part of the test." "Oh, man, you are not great." Then he does the little like uh kawaii thing with the fingers and like the smile, and the teeth come out again, which is kind of like, that's kind of weird. The next thing we see Ichikawa say, "If you do this wrong, I'm not going to be able to help you. So, keep on the low." Then he says, "Don't worry about it. I got this." He tries to open a bottle of water, and literally, as he opens the bottle, he turns to the kaiju again, and breaks the bottle. And he's kind of like, "I'm done. I'm done. I'm leaving you." and Kurosawa's like, "No, no, no, no. I got this. Don't worry about it." And he leaves. They kind of get back to normal. Then we get to the next part, which is at this defense force place. And they get a parking spot and everything. They walk out, and Ichikawa mentions, like, "I've been here on a field trip." And Kurosawa says there's multiple versions of this place. These places, have a mix of defense force, but also the military and all that kind of stuff. We work together. And Ichikawa says, "Well, if you turn here, one shot will put you down. So be careful." And then they're about to walk to the inside, but before they do that, they see a bunch of people doing other things. Like a guy on a bike gets off his bike. We see another kid kind of waving at somebody. We see a kid running around the parking lot for a bit. So those other probably main side characters we'll see down the road. But the other thing we see, this other character, this lady, goes, "Hey, old man." And they're like, "Oh man, who's she talking about?" And then they're kind of Kurosawa and each car looking at each other like, "What are you talking about, girl?" And then he looks, and he's like, "Are you calling?" And here's like, "Are you calling me old man?" He's like, "I'm I'm still young. I'm 32. I'm not old. That's old to me." "Wait, what?" He looks at Ichikawa. Ichikawa's like, "You're not that young." But ultimately, what this gets at, she's like, "Move your car. I want that spot." And he's like, "There's other spots around here. Why do you want that spot?" because it's my lucky number. It's my lucky number 5. He's like, lucky number? Really? Really? We're doing all this for lucky number? Come here, girl. You want to go? I can at least beat you down. And he's about to fight. Girl's like, you know what? If you're not gonna move, I'll move it. So she takes a little bow tie off, undoes her like little dress thing. He's like, why are you doing this in the parking lot? Puts her arm to her chest, and then kind of like has the energy come out to her arm, and then takes the thing and throws the car one spot over to its side. And she's like, I fight kaiju. Don't forget the name. I forget what her name is because they say it pretty fast. But she kind of goes up closer and smells him. She's like, you smell like kaiju. And that's how the episode ends. Chris, what do you think about this back half? This back half was kind of fun.
Bro, this back half was just comedy gold to me. Like, I can see where this show is trying to get its comedic roots at. Like, and it is kind of like taking jabs at the like, if in this way, it kind of reminds me a little bit of Bleach. And I know if Dion goes back and listen to this, he's gonna laugh. But yeah, there are some Bleach elements in here, especially the camaraderie of what's going on between him and old dude. Now, when you introduce this female, okay, to me, it seems like another female with short person syndrome. Except for she is incredible. As long as she has on this suit, she's not to be trifled with. Bro,
yes.
Brandon, how old are you?
32.
So you being 32 and then calling 32 old, and then that 32, you're being called by one who can toss a truck across a yard. Are you really going to start a fight with her?
Absolutely not. That's what I kind of thought when I made character.
Yeah. At that point, I'm old. I'm very old. Yeah.
I do think. I think that's what they're getting at. After what he saw, he was like, "Yeah, no, I'm not gonna. No." But I think the other thing, we've seen that suit before, by the way. We've seen that suit she's wearing before. You know from where? The rest of the Defense Force. The head of the captain, the head of the Defense Force, they've wore the same suits. We haven't seen what they do. This is the first time we've seen one that's actually done something. So you kind of can guess the suits help them either use their energy within their body or something that controls that energy and they can use out in different ways. Don't know. This is interesting because I think I'm also going to invoke something you brought up with Dion. I'm going to invoke this too. I ultimately think this should be one episode. Only because the little recap at the beginning recaps what happens right after he turns into a kaiju, which helps. But everything after that connects to what we've seen in the prior episode. For the most part.
Yep.
I think this could have been 45 minutes and still would have made sense. Combine 1 and 2, do it 45 minutes, you have a show there. I think it's this episode's stronger because I think they do a good job of building everything else up. There are little things me and Chris talks about. How can he undo his little head thing from kaiju and still just be his normal head? How can he put his teeth back in and out? How can he control certain things but not others? So those are little things that they're probably going to get at soon. But ultimately, I'm not going to be too worried about it because they can explain them later. I will say this. I think this show is going to get interesting as we get to 3 and 4. Once we get to 4, if he makes the Defense Force, we'll be really interested how that's going to happen. Because nobody knows he's a kaiju yet. So, at that point,
that's well, it's like we know he's going to make it as a kaiju. You know, we know he's going to make it to the kaiju force. It's just how.
How? Yeah, the big thing, how. I think Kafka as a character is fun. I think Ichikawa is fun. I think it's going to be interesting to see what we do with this new girl, the other side characters we saw in the back half of that episode, how that's going to play out. Before I ask Chris for the rating, get up Reincarnated Slime episode 52, if I'm correct, correctly. We'll get to that in a second. 53. 52, 53. I did say it right. That was one. off. We'll get to that in a second. But Chris, what would you give Kaiju number 8, episode 2 as a rating?
I will proudly give this episode a 8.2. I feel like they stepped it up from the last episode, gave us a bit more action, a little bit more insight from our character and what may be expected of him. Mm-hmm. So yeah. And by the way, I was wrong. It's episode 51.
51. Yeah, I forget they added. I'm thinking if you didn't have the diaries there, it'd be like 53. But the diaries make it 4.5. Yeah, I'm not thinking straight with that one. Okay, 8.2. I agree with that. I would have to give this. I have to give this like an 8.5. I think it's there. I think the bones of the show is there. The comedy's there. Some of the other stuff works. I think if you still gave it the comedy stuff, I'm cool with it. I think the only thing you're gonna have to explain, you haven't done it yet, technically. How can he, or how can she be so strong with the suit, and why are they chopping up the bodies into the hospital to send to like a lab? Those two things are connected, but we don't know how. Because that's the only reason they mention those three things like that. They mentioned that last episode. They mentioned that she. Go ahead.
I was going to keep going. I was trying to mute real quick.
I was gonna say they mentioned that last episode that they sent the stuff to labs. We looked at they can be actually used, and they also say here they also show you here how her power. She can wear the suit, and she can lift the car in midair just to toss it for a bit. I wonder if that's gonna be interconnected, if they're gonna have connections to it, or it's just gonna be kind of like a one-off thing. But I hope they do connect it. I think the other thing you really would have to explain: how does the defense force actually work? What is the purpose? How does the defense force get into be on a defense force, and what's the big purpose with the defense force? But I think we see that as well in the next episode as well. I don't think that's going to be left off for something later. But we'll see. I'm not too worried about that at all. So we're going to be at episode 51 of Slime. This episode was kind of a slower episode. They kind of let you have this like relaxing moment for a bit, but it actually still has a lot of stuff in it, nonetheless. In a second, I will say 3, 2, 1, and then we'll get going. Chris, you ready?
Ready.
All right. In 3, 2, 1, go. Do you know a lot of these songs have a lot of rock themes filmed now? So I think I noticed.
I feel like anime has always been using rock songs.
Yeah, but it's funny. These aren't like true pop songs. That's the thing. Like early anime used a lot of pop. This is probably the first thing I've really noticed it where it's not. There's not a lot of pop. It's more like rock / like instrumental stuff.
Yeah. One of my friends who's a drummer, any song, especially if it was rock or metal, I send it to him.
Mm-hmm. So he had the spider lady and the wolf girl finish up on that end. She didn't want the thing to answer and answer for her. Wait, how's the slime drinking tea?
Yep.
What did he make? Okay, he like picked it up with his slime arm and then okay, but never mind.
It's a big old hole in the mountain, man.
Yeah, that's huge hole she made from the previous episode. From the previous episode. she's like thinking, wait, they can do fine without them, without me. It doesn't make me kind of sad. Even train them well, even train them well enough. That's the point.
I mean, Shion is good for other things.
Yeah,
I'm talking. Never mind.
those coins, jeez.
Those are like diamond crusted coins, bro.
Yes, they are. He said silver gold coins. They don't look silver gold. They look diamond, like you say, diamond encrusted. So they already know he's not going to approve the rest of the payments. So basically, they know they want to go
They
to
don't
war.
want them. Yeah, I wonder how much of this side story is really gonna play out.
I think they get through all of it. I think they get through most of it. We probably won't see the ending.
But the curious thing to me was, well, I'll save it for the end. I'll save it for the end.
Oh, the Archbishop. I thought he died.
No, remember that he had resurrected himself, and then they like captured him and
Oh, okay.
made him
So he
tell
never
the
went
whole
back to
story.
the he never went back to the castle with the rest of them. He just kind of went back to the church from that point.
Yeah.
My condolences.
And you realize that he already has like a town, but it's gonna explode into a nation, like for real, for real.
Oh yeah, he's a town. He's about to get a giant city, but he's about to get like you say a nation under his rule.
I can't wait to hear this in English.
Sam.
He really is making an earnest request.
Correct.
I like how they give the flashback so we know who they're talking about.
Yeah, it's the guy we've seen before.
Hmm. I don't know how fast he can actually fly.
Probably pretty fast for a dragon. Oh, they can like do like mind talk basically.
Yeah.
That's kind of interesting. But to anybody else, that doesn't make sense.
Utilizing and educating people is two different things too. Now, bro, I would absolutely love to visit any bar that looks like that
It does look really good, don't it,
and
for a
that has
bar?
that type of atmosphere. Yes.
Oh, so that's how they built the road we see now. We've seen already. What's the new road?
Yeah, because remember they brought that up in season 2 that building a road to that specific nation would raise a lot of eyebrows.
Mm-hmm. And now they've checked it out where it's not going to be dangerous to do, but they don't want to overdo it. Tengu, a warrior like people.
And getting ready to add some more people, some more races like those.
Yep. Yep. We are.
I really wanted you to watch the movie before they start making references to the movie.
Mm-hmm. So that's like their meeting place, basically.
Yeah.
Is that tea and chocolate bars?
Probably, but it looks delectable to me.
It did look good. Like,
Bro, we can't get to Japan fast enough.
Human's wealth might be origin of he dug up. Ancient rune.
The entire forest. Yep.
Oh, so it's owned by the Dryads.
But yeah, but even the land that but now all that belongs to Rimuru.
Would the Dryads
including the land of the Dryads.
Would the Dryads bow down to him for that?
I don't see why they wouldn't.
That's true. Oh, they would need permission to live in the forest. Fair enough. Correct.
That probably is the best idea.
Wait, what was it the Pokemon theme playing at one point?
Yes, bro. I'm glad you caught it. That was the Pokemon thing.
That was a Pokemon battle theme. Like, what? Now, it's a weird thing to play like that at this point, but it works.
And
I, I have to give
can't
them
wait for this
credit.
season to start getting hot.
Yeah, I give them credit. They call this episode Peaceful Days, which it is. It's a very peaceful episode. There's not much here. But here's the thing I'm going to say. They give you so much story. Like, this is story heavy and basically proves what they're gonna what we're gonna see in the next couple episodes. Like it really does a good job of that, which is kind of surprising because it doesn't. I think that's the one thing about this show that's really interesting. The story still clicks in very well. Um, so let's get into this because this starts off with we kind of see Rimuru and them are talking about things, kind of figure out what they want to do next. But ultimately, the big thing we get from this little part is that Rimuru gets back to town, back to seeing Benimaru, the goblin guy, and his other brother, and then the little princess sister. They're kind of talking about what they do next. And then he's surprised because Benimaru and his sister have really become stronger and how they do things. And she kind of feels like that's kind of going to be weird because they've been doing so well. And Benimaru mentions that he has the spider girl, the snake girl, and the tiger girl take care of the rest of the refugees. The voice it is the little voice thing because here's what this means. She's like, and the rumor was like, I didn't care about that. I asked for it. You're lucky you're even talking right now. They have a little more conversation while they're drinking tea and stuff. They basically talk about the fact that y'all are doing so well. I trust everything y'all are doing. Ultimately, Remove's like, I feel kind of sad that they're just kind of doing this on their own now, not really my help, which is the kind of the point. They talk about that the orcs are getting the rest of the refugees and bringing them here. It takes a bit, and then Rumor mentions that he talked to uh, Milda about making her own capital and seeing all that kind of stuff. He's like, she will do that. And then the Goblin guy's like, you trust her with that? It's like, yeah, she's a friend. I can trust her with that. Then they do some more talking. We see uh, Diablo come in, show them about the treaty, about what they signed, and the first set of coins. These coins, like Chris said in the show, look like something out of like diamonds. They look really good, nice coins. They talk about that the king gave the power to his brother. The brother is now the new king, but they really don't want to pay for. They don't really want to pay the rest of the money because they don't think they need to. Diablo says that they're planning something, but we don't really know what they're planning. The the voice in the head, the wise voice talks about they might be trying to plan an attack to not pay the rest and not have one of Rimu's people take over as king. But ultimately, they're not going to do that because if they do that, that would force a lot of their other hands things will change. But ultimately, the big thing from this conversation that's really kind of interesting, Diablo's like, "Do you want to start fighting in combat?" He's like, and Rumu's like, "No, I'll be fine. We already have combat force for that, but keep doing what you're doing. Keep stuff in the shadows." And then Rimu mentions, "Shion, you can learn a lot from Diablo. He's done a really good job." And she's like, "Really? But I'm always done what you ask." And Shion's kind of like, "You know what? Yeah, I'll learn. I can learn." But he also mentions that the king, Rimu mentions the king, the other mage dude, and the archbishop are still out there doing true information. So we'll see what happens. The last thing we see, they're kind of talking, and Diablo says, "I'll go do my way. I'll go on my way now." And Rimu's like, "We need compensation. You can take some of these coins." He's like, "No, I want this compensation, but thank you anyway." Then we see the refugees coming to town, and they are, ready to go and everything. As they're coming in town, they're like, "That was." Ruben's like, "That's fast." The Tiger Girl and Snake Girl say that they got everybody in town and everything, and the refugees were taken care of by one of the other dudes we've seen prior. And she's like, "I feel bad for this dude. He shouldn't have taken care of all these people, but okay." Then they worked with the elf dude, or not the elves, but the dwarf guys to get new housing and stuff up. So they've kind of rushed that, kind of got everything set up for them already. And then I'm gonna stop right there before we get in the next little section when we talk about Mario. Chris, what do you think about this first like 9 minutes? Because this was a lot of stuff to kind of catch you back up what happened at this point.
Bro, this show It's starting off nice, and I mean like they're doing what they do best, to slowly remind you of everything that's happened over the past season, including some of the shows, the movies that they've had, and now they're slowly getting ready to introduce all the characters and everything, even the new characters. Bro, we're literally seeing the way a show is supposed to grow and evolve every season. This is a testament to
I like the fact too they explain what's happened prior through flashbacks and things, but they've also explained, oh, by the way, this is what you know, this is what Diablo's done with the treaty, the money. We see the money, the fact that the refugees are coming into town, all that kind of stuff. So ultimately, I agree with Chris on this. They've done a very good job of slow building this for ultimately well. The next thing we get is Gabimaru. Gabimaru comes in saying, I lost to uh, Mina, but I saw, I was helped, which is he lost to the other demon lord, but he's talking about the guy that's under the demon lord, the other demon lord, and he lost him, kind of fighting and everything, but ultimately he's okay with that. Minna wants this letter for you, basically saying she's asking for earnest help. She wants to bring people of hers. She wants to learn how to cook, all these things, and she's pleading yes for it, pleading to ask for the help, and ultimately Ruby's like, yeah, we'll do it. They're wondering why she wants to help, and ultimately the conversation talks about good food and everything. Gavin Morris like, I love good food. When I have good food, it's amazing. I can do pretty much anything, and it just tastes amazing. And after the conversation, Ruby was like, you know what, we'll help her out, get a letter to her, thing will help, and we will make the hospitality great for her. Then we see the refugees kind of getting used to the new life and everything. This is about a month later, based on time frame. And ultimately, you hear the goblin, the young goblin captain, talk about, wow, people have gotten used to this already. And Remu's like, yeah, they have, but that's a good thing. That tells me that things are going well. And ultimately, what happens, we see the orc, a portal open behind them, and it's the orc king. It's one of the orcs, and orc captain, he goes, um, I try to get the refugees to come with me, but the way orcs communicate, they kind of communicate telepathically. Telepathically is not really working with other races, so they're kind of too intelligent for them for the most part. He was like, you know what, you want to go grab a drink somewhere? And he's like, yeah, sure, we can go grab a drink. So they drink at this bar. Like Chris said, this bar looks nice. It looks very nice how they did the interior for this bar. It's the orc, Rimuru, and the Dwarven, the Drossen lady. And Rimuru thinks about his old life where he had to do paperwork and supervising and all this kind of stuff and how he had to handle all those situations. He still enjoys that. And Shion's like, wait, so the orc was drunk? Didn't the orc drink? He's not drunk, and he's like, nope. He has the thing where he doesn't get drunk, so there's no hangover or anything, and that's kind of like, oh, okay. So he has the ability for that. And we see the goblin guy talking about how the daughter of the kid, the daughter of the princess girl, or the dad of the princess girl, and the other person are going back to their town and talking about what's happening, and then Shion kind of looks kind of weird, but then they mention he has something else to do, so they'll talk about that later. Then we're gonna get in this part. I'll stop right here. Chris, what do you think about this part before we get to the back half?
So this is the first time in a while where another one of Rimuru's subordinates are coming to him for more than just advice. They're coming to him for help, and and what does he do? He takes them out to drink to the best bar in town. Looks like, where the dryads are serving drinks. Come on, it doesn't get any better than that.
Nope.
But he literally is pouring his heart out to Rimuru. It's like, in his frustrations, it's like, as an orc, thought transfer works, but when I'm trying to give orders to anybody else, it doesn't, and I don't know how to speak to people. That's basically what it comes across as.
Correct. And I love the fact too that it's it's the old thing. How it's not like saying he has stage fright when he talks in public, but that's what they're getting at. He doesn't know how to acclimate himself to talking to public of people of different races outside of his own. And it's just really interesting they do that so well. They do the part about the goblin, Goblin and him. They have the Goblin King and Ramu talking when they're walking in the city with Shion holding him. So that all that stuff in that little section is interesting. Just kind of learning about that. The next thing we get here is talking about they want to build another road. This road we kind of teased was going through this part of the land and everything. They talk about they can't because there's another faction that owns the part of the land they're going to. This faction's like a warrior tribe. And ultimately, the conversation comes up. Shion says, um, or Rimuru says, I want to go see this faction. And Benimaru was like, you can't go by yourself because they would be wondering why you'd be coming out there. I can go with you. And then his sister's like, you just want to go see that girl. And he's like, no, I don't want to go just see her. Um, Shion's like, yeah, you just want to see that girl. And then he's like, I don't, Rimuru don't trust you. And Rimuru's like, and Benimaru's like, you trust me, Rimuru, right? I trust you. I respect you. All that kind of stuff. And then they leave, and then Rimuru's by himself at the place, just kind of getting ready for the next day and the next meeting they're about to have. So he has a meeting with the old man, which we haven't seen the old man in a while. Basically, the old man's mentioning that they found the ancient ruins of this like treasure that Clayman had. They haven't really looked at all the treasure yet, so they need to see what it's about. Small amounts of it so far, and then ultimately Rimuru asked him, "Hey, can you give a secret? I need to see this treasure before we do anything." He's like, "Understood." So that's what that ends up being. And then the last little bit is kind of the meeting with everybody declaring now he's a demon lord. He's gonna control all the forest, including where the dryads live. And they're like, you can. That's kind of weird. And they're like, why is that weird? And is that a problem? It's like, and Minimal is like, no, it's not a problem. You can do it. It's just that means that everybody has to come to you for permissions and things to do things. It's kind of like, okay, that's gonna be kind of different. And technically, they mentioned you can own the land where the dryads are, but the dryads actually live there, kind of thing. So they have the permission to live there every time, which would be weird. Gavin Moore mentions that the Lizardman King is going to come see him personally. They're like, why is he coming to see personally? I told Shion about this. Shion, and Shion's like, yeah, he told me. Of course, he told me about this a couple days ago or something. And then so all these groups are coming together. Ultimately, Rimuru's like, you know what we can do? We'll put out a feeler to see if anybody else want to live here, and we'll build up more of a group. And they're like, okay, all right. And then the last thing we kind of already talked about is the Midna's crew coming up pretty soon, and they're going to see how that all works out. And then the last thing is that ultimately we're going to prepare for new people coming in here and having a bigger city and land that we have. And that's how the episode ends. Chris, what do you think about this back half? This back half was interesting and very well done, I have to say.
Bro, this was funny. This back half was the start of something great because okay, so in the first little mix session that you were talking, we're seeing all the new people that's coming from war, refugees, and everything already turning his city into a town, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then, but now as he's getting into this meeting room with everybody, and they're saying, well, yeah, he just came back from Walpurgis, and we decided to make all of the great forest of Jury under my name. And it was like, wait a minute, the entire forest? He's like, yeah, is that a problem? He's like, dude, we've only claimed about this amount, but there's actually this amount. And yeah, he's like, oh snap, this is a lot of people that. But he's like, well, forget it. Might as well just throw a party. I was like, yep, that's how you do it.
do you
Yeah, but
Do you think that plot point's going to show up later? Because they also mentioned the fact we're getting that new group of people too. Do you think in the next couple
yep.
episodes we're going to see a bigger city?
Yes, and within the next three to five episodes, especially if they, especially once they get past the first 12 episodes, because
Okay.
this is going to be a 24 episode.
Yes, we're getting a double 12 and 12. Do you like the fact they're going slow? Because I think this episode's going to get kind of low on the charts because of this, like in like 8 or 9.
No, because I mean, bro, this is between this and Jobless. These are the two shows I am enjoying going head to head in the charts, especially since both of these are supposed to be 24 episodes. I just hope they both run they both run their seasons back to back.
I think this episode builds into what we're gonna get next because they call it peaceful days, so we know war's coming. We know something's coming in the next episode. We might have a couple episodes of peaceful days, basically. But ultimately, I think the next thing you really would see is Mina's group and her coming to get help from Rimuru and learn how to cook and all that kind of stuff. I'm also shocked to say, and I don't think this is weird. I love the fact that they're doing a lot of talking, but they're actually making the talking as a reason behind it. So it's like there's ultimately every scene of talk, every section of talking. So the first half, the middle half, and the back half. There's one or two. There's at least a couple things you can take out, 3 to 4 things you can take out that's plot relevant. And some of the other talking is just there, but there's a lot of things that are plot relevant and plot relevant for later down the road or things that you say they remember. Um, yeah, this show is one on top. I think it's putting this in Jobless. Like this and Jobless running simultaneously, like Chris said, it's worth it. Like I want to see how both these shows do it. And it's hard to say, but I think the one thing about the isekai that I love is the characters. We saw the old man, the old guy again. That's the really good fighter, and the older man. We saw Diablo come back into play. We saw a lot of the side characters come back to play. We saw the Goblin guy, that's the head of the Goblin army, come back to play. Like, there's so many little side characters back in play. That's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. You're seeing more of that cast, which this is probably one of the bigger casts we have in the season so far this spring. And a lot of characters you don't remember names, but you remember faces.
I mean, bro, you aren't wrong. I mean, it's a lot going on and a lot to show, bro, and it's like with shows like this, you really don't know how they're going to take it. See, now this is why Kaiju 8 isn't doing as well as people probably thought it was going to do, because it's going up against these heavy hitters. Like, bro, these are heavy hitters that nobody wants to miss out on.
Correct.
Because they know that it's good storytelling. Now for Kaiju 8 to still place where it's placing within all these seasons, I think that can't be undisputed at all.
Oh no, I mean it's still top 15. If it's still top 15, it's got 11 right outside the top 10. That's actually not bad for it comparatively with all the marketing and like all the stuff it's gotten. You thought it would be, and it's not hitting as fast. You probably thought it'd be like 20, but top 11, top 15, you're doing well. You'll get in the top 10 eventually.
Now, see if Kaiju 8.
Say what now?
I was gonna say now, if Kaiju 8 was coming out like last season, it probably would have got higher. Coming out with Solo Leveling, like between that and Solo Leveling, it would have been either top 5 easily.
Speaking on that, do you think now, with the way we've seen they delayed it till this season, do you think now that was the right decision?
Say it again.
Do you think that it came out now? Do you think since Kaiju came out now instead of last season, do you think that was the right decision?
I didn't hear which show you said.
Oh, I said, do you think that Kaiju 8 coming out now instead of last season, do you think that was the right decision?
Yes, because that's showing that it does deserve a top spot amongst these heavy hitters.
Okay. All right. Okay. Yeah. Um. So I'm gonna ask for this. What would you give Reincarnated as a Slime episode 51 as a rating?
I'm giving it an 8.8 because it is slowly getting up to that point. Because, bro, this is one of the few shows that if an episode came out, I could give it a 10 because it's done so well, and even if they have a high octane episode, they're going to come back with it, and they're going to up it on their own show. This is a show that will do that.
All right. I would have to go. Yeah, I'll go around. I'll go a few 8.8, 8.9. So I'll say 8.9. I think you're right. This could ultimately get 10. Each episode could be its own 10, basically. I think the thing is, I think we need to see more shows do this where they do slow builds. But I also know if it's a recent show, if it's a new show, it can't do it because you're trying to build up stuff. If it's a recurring show, you can do it very easily because you don't have to worry about trying to show all this context. But I think that's where you kind of have to balance things out. You were going to bring up something that you thought about during the episode that you kind of left off. You were going to wait till the end. What was that for the show?
So, how can I say this? There are certain things that this show does better than any other show.
Okay.
See, this show allows them, because of the way that they built this show and the way that our main character is, he can technically use anybody's power from any show. Mm-hmm. If you think about it, because he's in the world and they make references back to this world more often and for other shows, I think I asked you or Dion, who would win in a fight between Ainz Al Ghul and Rimuru?
That's a tough one.
If you don't know now, right? And now here's the other thing that I wanted to bring up, and it's so we all know Diablo is one of the. So Diablo is one of
the strongest, I think,
characters. 5 or 6. He's one of 5 or 6 what they call primordial entities in the show.
Yep.
And we've already seen another 4 or 5 of them already.
Yes, we have. Technically.
So the fact that Diablo evolved, 1 is a clue. And 2, the fact that Rimuru evolved a primordial being is a whole other entity. So what exactly is Rimuru? That's the question I want to leave with the fans. What exactly is Rimuru?
I want to think about what you might. I see that people think in the comments because at that point you're getting to levels of like he's a higher level of being, even though he's done little nothing to get to that point. Or he's done something to get to that point, but the stuff he's done is not as grandiose. But even you could go to the point of like he's their technical like higher power of that world as well, which is even crazier to think about. We'll see what this ends up because I am loving both these shows. I think Slime's gonna have the more interesting ideas they can do with it and how they can build up those characters again. Let some characters sit in the background, bring other characters back to the foreground, kind of that kind of stuff. But let me know what y'all think in the comments because we're going into a very interesting ride. We're only in episode 4 of this show, basically 4, and we'll see where everything ends up. But that was episode 53 of the Anime Dojo. We'll be back next week for episode 54. We're going to review episode 3 of Kaiju No.8 and episode 52 of Reicarnated Slime. We're getting into the swing of things now.
It's a little bit closer to My Hero Academia and stuff too.
Yep, My Hero is going to be out at the end of the month, at the beginning of May. We're We're also getting close to Demon Slayer, which is the middle of May. So we're getting ramped up to everything coming out officially. And that'll be very fun to see what's going to end up at. I do thank Chris for joining me. This will be on the podcast on Spotify as it finishes processing, and it'll be up on YouTube on Thursday. I do thank you for watching. Hope you did enjoy, and hope you for next time. See you.
Deuces.